So today I'm going to talk about spontaneous lashing. I don't even know if it's a thing. That's what I call it. So that means not writing on your lash pads. As soon as you can get out the habit of that, do it. Because you end up, one, not lashing safely when you're more inexperienced lash tech. And two, it creates a really boring set. So like that flat top line, it just goes. And you end up doing the same look on every single person. So when I came out of my training, so I did 2 courses. I did one in Tenerife, because I used to live there. And I did one here, so that I could qualify here. My first course, this was the map that I did. 8, 10, 12, 10, 8. And because I found it so scary to then lash anybody else without my trainer being there, and to think outside the box or try anything other than what exactly we did on that day, I lashed everybody like this. I think I might have lashed 6 or 7 people with this exact lash map, because I didn't know what else to do. And I used to shake and I used to get really nervous. So I just stuck to what I'd learned, and that was it. And then when I did my second course, I went straight back to that lash map again, because it was a safety blanket. But then I started to realise not everybody can take a 12 in that 12 section. They needed more of an 8, and this would be dropping down to maybe a 7. Or they needed more than a 12. A 12 wasn't long enough. They'd need more like a 13 or a 14 because their lashes were so long. So I had to start lashing according to what the natural lashes were saying. So I'm using this technique every single set that I'm doing, because you have got to lash safely. It's really important that you lash safely. And you can apply this to any lash look that you are doing. So you've got a look in your head that you're going with. Say it's a feline flick. You know that you're wanting to go shorter and longer at the end. But in between that, you're lashing accordingly to each eyelash, instead of going, everything here is getting that. Because not necessarily everything in that 14 section, for example, can take a 14. Then you're not lashing safely. So we want to be lashing safely all the time. So every picture that I'm about to put up, I've used this technique. So this is for women that come in and say, oh, I don't really know what I want. You do what you feel is right. They never say to me things like, oh, I want you to pull my eye open, or I want you to pull it out, or this or that, or create a certain shape. They're just really not sure. So I'll spontaneous lash all the way through the set. And also, if you're seeing me growing, I am nearly 28 weeks pregnant, with my 3rd child. So if anyone wants to know about how the pregnancy's been while I've been lashing, then let me know, and I'll do a little video on that, because the bump is getting big. So I was quite worried in the beginning, but it's been all right. So here we go, my spontaneous lashing technique. When we're taught to lash, we're taught to map. So when we're taught to map, you go on your little pad. For example, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10, 9, and then possibly an 8. And that is how you're taught. But that gives you a really, really, really flat line all the way on the top. It's good to write that on your map when you first start out, because it gives you an idea of how long the lashes are and how they look when the eyes open, and where you're putting certain things. But there's two things I feel are wrong with this. Is one, it gives really, really boring sets. And two, some people in, say, between this section and this section have got 1 or 2 really big eyelashes. You can't put an 8 or a 9 on them because otherwise they're going to be poking out the top. And through, say this on this one is your longest set, your longest length. Some people have got teeny weeny lashes through here. You can't put an 11 on them. So to block out sections and say I'm only putting an 11 there or I'm only putting a 10 there, it doesn't always work out. So when you sporadically lash, you go with what is happening naturally throughout that natural lash set that's in front of you. So generally people's eyelashes start small and then they get a little bit bigger, but they stay long out here. They stay long. So that's naturally how they normally go. But in between all of these, you have all this going on. And that's happening all the way through, blah, blah, blah. And then throughout that again, we've got babies. So this is a really good way to create a wispy lash set as well, actually. Is if you say, right, this one is, we're on our outer corner here. We don't want to drag the eye down. We're going to take it to maybe, let's say that naturally is like a 9. Let's take that to a 12. So that's going to be a 12. Up here, this person can take a 14. But this length here is still the same as this length here. So let's make this a 14. And here it's the same, 14. And here it's not so long. Let's keep that as a 13. And through here, so this one's a bit longer. That's longer than what I would normally putting an 8 and a 9 in there. Let's make that a 12. So we're going with what is naturally occurring. So in between here, I've got a smaller one. I'm going to go with 11. Let's go over here. Let's make that a 13. Next to this one, it's a bit shorter. Let's make that a 13. But next to this 13, it drops right down. Let's make that an 11. So you can see how you don't create boxes of lengths throughout. You are going with what's naturally occurring, and this you're going to really safely lash your client doing this. Down here you've got 8s and 9s, maybe these little guys down here. These really thicken lash lines up. So once you've done all your big guys, you're going to root right into the roots here. See all your little babies. I mean, not every baby you lash, but if you're lashing safely, you can still lash. And this can be applied to Russian lashes or classic lashes. It's the same. So this one we could do as that's a 12. Let's take that down to a 9. Say that one was a little bit longer. We could go 10. That's come right down. Let's make that an 8. So you can start to see how that's creating wispy, but natural. Really, really, really natural. So this is really handy for keeping it in mind when people have a shed as well, because if you've been doing somebody for 2 or 3, you've had them come back for 2 or 3 fills, and every single time they've had a cat eye where all your big ones are on this outer corner, but they've had a shed where all the big ones are gone, and we've got medium-sized ones and baby ones in this section and the odd big one. You can't create the cat eye anymore because all the big ones are over here. So you just have to be honest with your client and say, I can't get big ones on these ones today because you've had a shed. I don't want to risk putting big ones on these newer delicate lashes. I'm going to have to take it right down to maybe an 11. We're going to do a different style today. So it doesn't always work out that when you put your mapping on your pads, that it's always safe for the client. So stop writing on your pads. get out of that habit as soon as you can and start lashing more safely.